Okay.
Okay, so Puja, in terms of appeal to audience, you've picked a topic which is really quite it's really quite relevant, and that obviously appeals to your 16 to 24-year-old audience. There's no way that those programmes would be on in the most prime time on television Saturday evenings if it didn't appeal to a wide range of people. In terms of gender, I think, firstly, if you'd have made this documentary 10 years ago, I think it would have been a very female-orientated thing. But I actually think now it's starting to become, dance is starting to become something which is all right for everybody to be into.
You're right, dead right.
For men to be into as well. I mean, I've watched every episode of Strictly, and I've watched every episode of So You Think You Can Dance so far, and I don't look like somebody that would be into dance. So I think in terms of that, you've picked a topic which clearly appeals to your audience. In terms of the content of what you've got in there, you have a range of different people, a range of different interests. So, and your male presenter, again, as sort of the guy that appears to know very little about dance, I think it makes the whole thing quite disarming, even if people don't know much about dance. If we'd have had some sort of beautiful toned lady going around to all these dance studios, it wouldn't have been as effective for somebody who not that into dance as having the guy that is there. In terms of ethnicities, I mean, you spoke to people of lots of different ethnicities, so much, and you covered lots of dances that cover different ethnicities as well. So much so for ethnicity to not really be an issue with the documentary.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that you had him as a kind of everyman person who he's going out to find out, oh, why are they popular? What's dance got to offer? It serves right. It does make it disarming. You're not thinking, oh, well, I could never dance, so what's the point in this for me? You're thinking, oh, yeah, why are they popular? Why do people like watching it? Does it make people dance more, or do they just watch other people dancing, like cooking shows, just watch people cooking while you have your pot noodle? I think that worked really well, and the fact he's not an expert, he doesn't know the language of dance, does he? He's just a normal, everyday bloke. And I think it serves right. Such a range of ethnicities, of nationalities, of styles of dance, of people that you interviewed as dance instructors, but also pops were all over the world. That meant that kind of faded into the background, really.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a politician, but it sort of reflected multicultural Britain at its best.
Yeah. In terms of USP and place in the market, as Sir said, really, you've hit that zeitgeist of dance shows being very popular with lots of different age groups, which I think was partly what you talked about a lot in your research, the fact that it used to be, like when it was Come Dancing, it used to be just old people who watched other old people dancing, whereas now they're very much back in, there's about 3 or 4 different dance shows on at any one time. There's dancing in Britain's Got Talent, etc. So I think you really have found your place in the market in a way that if a student went to make this in 10 years' time, it might be completely irrelevant. But it did have a USP because it wasn't just like, well, let's have a look at some dance shows. It was, what impact is it having on the dance industry? Is it making people dance more? And what are the good things about dancing? So that was really good.
I mean, you could have just gone and interviewed all those people and asked them about dancing, and it would have been a solid documentary. But the fact that it's all hung off of the impact of those dance shows actually gives it that USP.
Yes.
And I've not really, it's an issue. It's an issue which hasn't really been explored. Really, you see lots of documentary about specific styles of dance and all this kind of stuff, but there's not really anything out there that really talks about this impact of dance shows, despite the fact that there's millions of people that tune in and watch them, and they must be having some kind of impact. So it's a really astute thing to pick out. And in terms of a place in the market, I mean, an expanded version of that would fit very neatly as a half-hour documentary on BBC Three, or within its current state would fit very neatly into a one-show type programme. Absolutely.
I think so. In terms of conventions, again, you used all the conventions really you'd associate with documentary. We had archive footage, just set the context in a montage. We had interviews that were kind of on location. We have footage that you did of people dancing, which was really good. We had the presenter going on the journey. We had the kind of setting of, I'm outside Pineapple Dance Studios, I'm in the West End. I don't think you can fault it in terms of the range of conventions that we used. Music, given the issues that you've previously had with sound, when we'd listened to it, I didn't think there were any issues with the sound levels. Worked really well, particularly again when you had the location film and you're in a busy city. I thought that worked out really well.
And I think the music was chosen well in terms of pace as well. Like, it was used very conventionally for the right bits. I mean, your opening montage was, I mean, it was archive footage. There's no way that you could have made this documentary without opening it with what you did. And yet this could have been a documentary that was dominated by archive footage all the way through, and actually the archive footage that was in there was really not that noticeable.
No.
It was, it was there, but me and Miss Evan have watched lots of these in the past, and
it gets very jarring and noticeable, whereas that just felt like you were using it for a purpose.
Yeah, every time, in fact. So I think that worked really effectively as well. In terms of use of technology, I thought, it was functional at times in there. There was some really quite nice touches. I thought, in terms of, and this is kind of linking technology with establishing shots. With conventions, everywhere you went, you used establishing shots, and that was quite creative again because it